Let's dive right in with the learning styles. I'm going to start with the social learners. I love that one simply because they could come up to be the most disruptive ones. These are the students that need to be in a social setting to learn. They learn better when they're surrounded by people, right? A lot of the times, these are the students that are a little competitive as well. So they need to have these other students around them so that they can kind of outdo themselves. They're the ones that no matter where you sit them in your class, they will talk to everybody. So there isn't one magical spot in your classroom. They need that. They need that interaction for things to process through their heads. And this is something that we saw a lot throughout the pandemic. I lived it myself personally with my youngest son, who was in high school at the time, finishing up high school, and very high performing student, always in the A's and A pluses, but everything dropped when he had to start learning at home. And that's because he was that student that needed the little challenge of other students around them. They needed to have that talk to talk it through so that it would actually register. So I saw the impact of what a social learner goes through when you cut that out. So if you're constantly teaching in a quiet setting, because you want that quiet class, you want that quiet home or homework time, you are torturing the social learner. They need to talk. Trust me, they're learning when they're talking. They're still listening. They just need that movement. So for a social learner, and you will know who they are, they love, like I said, they love to talk. No matter where you place them, they will disrupt the class, or they will seem like they're wasting their time doing their homework, but this is how they're learning. They're actually learning. So when you ask them to sit quietly and not move, or if you isolate them from the class because they're disrupting the class, you're actually stopping them from learning. So this is what I mean when I say we need to put the ego and pride aside and address the student's needs. You are taking the child's learning tools away from them when you're isolating these students. So how do you do that without your classroom being completely chaotic with these social learners, right? Because we're going to go through the solitary learners that need to be in a quiet setting. How do you balance that out? If you have two kids at home and one is a social learner, one solitary is a better word, the solitary learner, how do you manage that, right? So in class, it works in a home setting as well, is try to include more what we would call breakout sessions where they could be some social interaction. So instead of just doing the work alone at their desk, do some little breakout groups where they can talk about what just happened, or if whatever exercise you're having them do, have them work in two or three and talk it through. That's going to help your social learner. They're not going to be bugging everybody else around them because now they're focused with the other two or the other one that they're with. Assign study buddies. So your social learners are going to love that. If they have a study buddy, they can pick him. You can pick them if you want. You can pair a social learner with a quieter student as well. But just the fact that they can interact with somebody or they can help a student that may be struggling, that will help them to learn even more. So it's going to help tone down the behaviors in your class or at home as well. Allow group assignments. A lot of the times, because of again, the movement in the classroom, we try to do individual, but try to allow some group assignments where we have an assignment. If you want to work with a friend, you can, but if you want to work alone, you can as well. Just to have that flexibility doesn't change anything for you. And group assignments save time in grading as well, because now you've got groups. It's not 35 different assignments. Now you have 10 if you have groups of 3, right? 10 or 11. Try to work your classroom where you can have designated areas where they could be group work, so that the students that need to be in a quieter area. Just think of it in preschool and kindergarten where you have your loud learning centers like the kitchen, the blocks, the construction area away from the book, the reading area, right? It's the same thing. Try to have an area that's not in the front of the class at the door so that it sounds very loud, maybe a little tucked away in the back of the class where you can have bean bags or cushions or whatever where the kids can kind of lounge and learn together. That's really, believe it or not, going to tone down the noise level in your classroom as well. Another little thing that can really be helpful is encouraging classroom discussions. At first, it's a little awkward. Nobody wants to talk, but your social learners are going to start talking. So open a dialogue if you can. And again, you have to adjust it according to your age group, but that can help as well. So at home, if you have a social learner, obviously you don't have 30 other kids in your room or in your home. Try to be around a little bit. You could do stuff around the house, but you're in there. So if you see that they're starting to get fidgety or they're losing interest, start asking questions. Even it doesn't stop you from doing what you're doing, but ask them to explain to you what they learned, what they took from the class, and that encourages them to learn. Them teaching you about it is teaching them about it. So it's very helpful.